Steven Spielberg, the reason for our dreadful dreams with dinosaurs. A highly respected director of the Hollywood who's known for his unique style movies such as Jaws, again, which also brought about the fear of sharks. And it doesn't stop there. Then there is E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and all these movies, they just emphasize his take on conceiving and living the impossible. Just like the superhero movies which we used to watch as a kid, in which the hero is nothing but the reflection of our own dreams. In quotes. So there are many directors who have found profound success in Hollywood, such as Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, David Fincher. But why is Steven Spielberg alone a billionaire? And of course there's George Lucas, who's also a billionaire. But considering the fact that the Star Wars franchise is never gonna end, it only seems logical. So in order to find out, let's go back. Spielberg started filming as early as his teens. He had a hard time getting along with people, so he preferred playing with the camera rather than going outside. And there is a reason for that. Because of his Jewish nature, he was constantly bullied, being a victim of anti-Semitism from such a young age. And let's not forget that for a moment, because it did result in the inception of one of the greatest films to be ever made, which secured 12 Academy Award nominations and won 7 of them. So I will come back to that, of course. But now, after finding his interest in the film industry, Steven applied for the USC Film School. But then he started working in the Universal Studios after failing to secure admission in the latter. Since he worked in the Universal Studios, that was a place where he learned everything about the film industry, which is the very reason why they also sponsored his first film, Jaws. Now, we often tend to see movies only as an end result, but Spielberg, being a novice, which is a beginner in the film industry, was totally unable to stick to deadlines and budget. And not only Jaws, also for the next couple of films that he made, he was commonly known as a guy who just went beyond schedule. But when Jaws came to the theaters, it was a total havoc because it was completely blowing the box office off, collecting a whopping $433 million with a meager budget of just $9 million. From then, there he had multiple hits among his movies, which followed the Close Encounters of the Third Kind until 1941 came up, which was a total disaster. Now, being in a situation of failure, George Lucas, the friend of Steven Spielberg, joined hands together with Spielberg to bring out one of the greatest franchises to be ever found, the Indiana Jones. And not only that, after that Steven went on to find the Jurassic Park franchise as well. Now, why am I saying this out of the blue? It's because these franchises are something which generate money even today for Spielberg. Remember the Universal Studios? People go out there to have fun. Well, a part of the ticket goes away straight to the pocket of Spielberg because of his contribution to the films. And in addition to that, Spielberg started producing the movie. I mean, why not produce the movies which would make a fortune for you rather than somebody else? Which marks the inception of Amblin Entertainment and DreamWorks, which are the main reason for the wealth, because the money from the box office collection now gets to be shared among the producer, who is none other than Spielberg. So let me explain how it happens. He did produce the movie of Jurassic World. So when I mean producer, it means that he takes the cost of producing the movie, no matter whatever the cost is, whether it be the director, whether it be the actors, whether it be the script or the story, or whether it be the set, the food, everything that's necessary in the system of making the film is totally held upon by the producer. And once the film gets made, the film is in complete possession of the producer. Now he distributes the film to the theaters directly or through a distributor, where when the film runs, 50% of the money straight goes away to the producer, to Steven in this case. So the better the movie does, the more money Steven pockets, which has been most of the case in the films that he produced, which is exactly why he's worth over $6 billion according to Bloomberg's Billionaire Index, which is the lowest that can possibly be because they are usually estimating the lowest possible net worth. Now, as a teenager, his parents divorced when he was very young, which is why you can see his films having kids facing similar situation as such, where they are going through divorces of their parents.
Dad would believe me.
Maybe you ought to call your father and tell him about it.
And the ability to dream of the impossible, just as I mentioned before, the Jaws, the Jurassic Park, the E.T., is the main structure of his films, and he's proud of it, of course.
You can recreate
the end of the world or the beginning of the world just because you had a strange dream one night.
But on the contrary, there's a totally emotional part of himself in his movies. I mean, being a victim of bullying at a young age did take a toll on him, and he's always figured ways to express and articulate the latter in his films. But the reason behind those incidents were his Jewish heritage, which he always concealed from his counterparts because he was afraid of losing his friends or them ridiculing him because of that. But as time progressed, he learned about the things that his ancestors had gone through just because of the only reason that they belong to a particular race. And it totally changed his perception from that point. So as he was progressing to the film industry, there was this author, Thomas Kennelly, who showed the book of Schindler's Ark, a story of how a German industrialist went on to save over 1,100 Jews during the Holocaust in Poland. Spielberg had this enormous weight on his shoulders to do something about it, of showing the world the injustice that had happened against his community, the Jews, the Holocaust. So Spielberg decided to make the movie The Schindler's List. And the time in which this happens, the world turning a blind eye to all these things which you consider inhuman, is something which can never be forgotten. If you see the movie, one can clearly see that Oskar Schindler in the beginning was nothing but a clear profiteer of the war and slave labor, but as the film progresses, you could see the shadow of his face getting brighter and brighter. It was Steven Spielberg's touch of showing that Schindler was getting to realize the true purpose of his life. There's this one scene where Schindler gets to encounter the epiphany of this complete realization. It's just take a look at this. It was his way of realizing the world turning a blind eye towards this terrible act against humanity. I mean, what did this little girl, this small little girl, do to receive such hostility? From then, the movie revolves in such a way that when Schindler's conscience gets redemption, the fact that the money could not stand a chance over his realization that the same thing can save many people's life was totally inevitable to him. From all the money he earned, Schindler saved over 1,100 Jews, and that's a huge number because during the liberation period, Poland had an entirety of 4,000 Jews overall, but Schindler alone had managed to save over 1,100 Jews. There is this one scene in which I couldn't take my mind off, where Schindler gets the hard-hitting realization of the truth where he could have saved more people. Just take a look.
Could have got more out. Could have got one more person. And I didn't. I didn't.
Now remember the movie which I said got 12 Oscar nominations and 7 Oscars it secured? Well, here it is.
The Oscar goes to, this is a big surprise, Steven Spielberg for Schindler's List.
I want to thank Sid Sheinberg for giving me the book. I have great actors in this movie. Liam, thank you. And to the 6 million who can't be watching this among the 1 billion watching this telecast tonight. Thank you.
It was widely accepted all over the world, and most importantly, it was Spielberg's way of coming to terms with his identity. He was no longer concealing it, and he was no longer afraid of it. And I don't undermine the factor that these things have happened time and time again all over the history. But all I'm saying is, if these things happen again, because they will, we should only anticipate and act with compassion that if we look back, we could at least say, I could have done more.